Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory here in Washington. Now, the Trump administration has unveiled a new strategy for Africa that is focused on countering Chinese and Russian influence on the resource-rich continent. And the administration is now demanding more accountability for American aid. Patsy Widakuswara has more from the White House.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has long been courting African leaders at events like September's China-Africa Forum. Chinese-funded infrastructure projects are popping up all over Africa. At the conservative-leaning think tank, the Heritage Foundation, the administration launched a new strategy on Africa.
Well, Kim, thanks very much. And,
officials say it's designed to counter China's growing power, as well as Russia's attempts to increase its influence in the resource-rich continent.
The predatory practices pursued by China and Russia stunt economic growth in Africa, threaten the financial independence of African nations, inhibit opportunities for U.S. investment, interfere with U.S. military operations, and pose a significant threat to U.S. national security interests.
Bolton said the goal of the strategy is to advance trade and commercial ties, counter the threat of terrorism, and ensure accountability for American aid.
We heard the speech. We'll take a look at the speech and look at the detail of the speech, and we'll give a comment to that. But we are happy to understand that finally America has a strategy that is purposeful towards Africa.
The new Africa strategy is in line with the Trump administration's foreign policy that portrays China as a strategic competitor. Some analysts see the us versus them approach as counterproductive, including Mike Fuchs from the left-leaning Center for American Progress.
Which we should be creating partnerships with countries in Africa based on our interests and how we can work together to pursue shared interests. This is not, again, a battleground between the United States and China, but framing it that way is going to, I think, leave a bad taste in the mouth probably of a lot of the leaders and the people, frankly, in Africa.
Bolton also warned the U.S. will re-evaluate its support for UN peacekeeping missions.
We will seek to streamline, reconfigure, or terminate missions that are unable to meet their own mandate or facilitate lasting peace. Our objective is to resolve conflicts, not freeze them in perpetuity.
The U.S. will also review aid to countries whose governance it finds unaccountable. Bolton singled out South Sudan, signaling that all aid may soon end for the war-torn country. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News at the White House.
The United States provides foreign aid to many developing countries to support their development and, in turn, that of the global community, either in the form of money, technical assistance, humanitarian aid, or strengthening policies. Interaction, a U.S. non-governmental organization like the U.S. government works with African authorities to strengthen democracy, especially in the area of free and fair elections. Channels Television's correspondent, Maria Bird, tells us more about that.
United States development organizations continue to work to make ties with the continent of Africa, specifically focusing on governance, youth, and women.
All issues of governance, issues of civil society engagement, issues that deal with what's happening with youth in Africa, what's happening with marginalized ethnic groups in Africa, as well as women, in terms of their ability to air their grievances, to be heard by their governments, and to have their governments be responsive to the needs that they're expressing.
U.S. development organizations lobby U.S. congressional members to request aid to address international challenges.
Internationally, the root of our ability to do that really is domestic, because we need our Congress to fund the work we do. We need our State Department and our U.S. international development agencies to be part and parcel of that effort. And to the extent that our domestic politics become insular, become isolated, when you see the rise of xenophobia and anti-immigrant sentiments in our society, these all are things that become challenges for us. And so what we end up having to do is fight on two fronts. One, domestically with Congress and our presidential administration, and another to deal with the issues that we're facing when we're working in Latin America, Asia, Africa, and the like.
U.S. non-governmental organizations are not only advocating for aid internationally, they are also requesting freedom of information.
The lack of press freedoms across the world, places where journalists are being under threat, and the whole idea that essentially you could use internet, social media platforms, and technology to spread misinformation, confusing people, causing mistrust in established organs of information that should be trusted, and essentially sowing dissent in the fabric of societies. And so this is something that we see on the rise and something that we're working hard to push back against.
U.S. advocacy organizations continue to be on the front lines as they hope to address issues in Africa and in other parts of the world. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channels Television News.
Well, it's time now for a short break, and we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and other programming around the clock. You can also find us on youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, humans and gorillas are more similar than you might think. We share a strikingly similar genetic code, and it seems we both occasionally cheat at games. That story after the break.